Borknagar Winter Thrice is the 10th studio album from this Norwegian black progressive folk metal band. It was released on January 22nd, 2016. The men who are responsible for creating this piece of musical art are Øystein Brun, Jens Ryland, ICS Vortex, Lars Nedland, Vintersorge, and Bard Olstad. It clocks in at 49 minutes and 38 seconds with just 8 tracks. I'm going to just give you a glaze over of my feelings of the entire record, then I'll slap a grade on the thing at the end of the video. If you're listening to this on SoundCloud, please hop over to YouTube and check out my channel and subscribe there as well. You can just type in flyandbrianshow.com and that will lead you to my YouTube channel. If you're already on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Okay, so this album runs the gamut of metal sounds. It's got some dense parts with some really heavy drum work, guitar work, growling vocals, you name it. If it's heavy, there's parts of that in this album. It also has some really open, more clean, kind of melodic, happier kind of sounds throughout the entire record with some clean vocals, some piano parts, and some clean guitar work as well. Some toned down drums, not as much double bass drum going on in parts like there is in the dense parts that I just mentioned. There are times where the album kind of lulls you into a sense of security before just hammering you with some really heavy, progressive, dark metal, such as on songs like When Chaos Calls. It starts off with just a brief little piece of piano that's really chilled out, and then all of a sudden, kablam, just hits you with some extremely powerful and, heavy type of metal. Heavier than heavy metal, because we all know that heavy metal is the softest of all of the metals. There's also songs like Noctilucent, which is, to me, it feels really like Funeral Doom a little bit, except for it's all clean vocals, and it's even more chilled out than Funeral Doom, maybe a little bit of gothic metal. Picture a mixture between that folk metal, the progressive metal, the black metal, and then throw in some melodic death metal. I'm just trying to give you a sense of what Noctilucent is like. Noctilucent is the shortest track on the record, clocks in at 3 minutes and 54 seconds, but it absolutely is my favorite because ever since I found the melodic death metal scene, Funeral Doom, I have been in love with it, and it's been tough for me to get away from it. And then, of course, the folk metal that I spoke of and mentioned, this whole album definitely does fall into that category with the storytelling. It's really majestic. It makes you feel like you're in this winter kind of forest if you actually pay attention to the lyrics and to the storytelling with the music that happens throughout the entirety of this record. Now, I talked about Noctilucent and how it's the softest, shortest track on the record. I really wish that this album would have finished off with that track rather than going to Terminus. Now, I saw a lot of people that Terminus was their favorite song, and it too runs the gamut. Of all of the songs on the record, this one probably does the best job of blending the clean vocals with the growling vocals, and the same goes with the double bass drum, the really intense drum work, and then the softness, and then some piano. You name it. That song runs the gamut, and I think that it does the best job of that, but it simply isn't my favorite. My favorite songs on the record are When Chaos Calls, because it kind of lulls us into that sense of security and then really hammers us. And then my number one favorite easily is Noctilucent. As always, I've spent a lot of time with this record, just kind of thumbing around with it. I've lifted weights with it. I've just laid on the floor in my apartment listening to it, just kind of giving it its due. And I really enjoyed it. I spent, like I said, a lot of time with it, and I regret none of that time. There's songs like Winter Thrice and Cold Runs the River, Panorama, that I didn't mention any specific things about, but those two have a great mixture of the sing-songy vocals with the growling, heavier tones, the crunchier guitars, and then the clean guitars, the double bass drum that's just fucking coming right at you, really powerful, and then they tone it back a little bit. Most of the whole album has some mid-tempos going on here, but just generally, I love the diversity that this album brings. And I'm going to slap a grade on it here. I just reviewed Megadeth's Dystopia. The next album that I'm going to be reviewing is The Astonishing from Dream Theater. And I haven't even gotten to Dream Theater yet, but So far in 2016, this is the second album that I've reviewed, and it gets the best score so far this year. I gave an 80 to Dystopia by Megadeth. Winter Thrice by Borknagar is going to get an 85. Now, I forgot to mention that this is actually the first time that I've ever had an opportunity to listen to Borknagar. I just heard of them from this album, and going forward, I'm going to be checking them out a lot. This is the 10th studio album from these guys, and if it can get any better than this, you know I'm going to hop on that bandwagon. This is certainly better than a lot of music that I used to listen to when I was just listening to what the radio would throw me out from metal and rock. Please check out this album. It is definitely worth your time. Let me know in the comment section down below which was your favorite song. If you agreed with me on Knocked Loose, and that would just be fantastic. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this album review. I know it was kind of short and it didn't have too much in depth for actual material to give you, but I thank you anyway for checking out the album review. Once again, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys when I talk about The Astonishing by Dream Theater. Namaste.